And you're right that if the United States is unable or unwilling to take many of these products, then you have to pivot. And it's not just Chinese companies pivoting, it's everybody's having to pivot. European companies, Southeast Asian companies, Chinese companies, and look for new market opportunities. And I think as we move ahead and we think to next, what comes next, that fierce competition for domestic markets is going to be a problem. There's going to be some social consequences in different markets as a result of this fierce competition that will take out local firms who are less competitive, less efficient, and much more expensive. That the extent to which that becomes a problem is going to depend by market. But the point is that we're going to have higher competition ahead. Part of that is because when you break the global trading regime, all of a sudden the rules that used to govern trade are now up for grabs, and every firm is going to be looking for these kinds of opportunities.
Well, look, and part of the issue with China is not that they're necessarily subsidizing every company, but when they subsidize robotics, and then the robotics are then used by companies, and then you have such a competitive advantage when you're not paying workers anymore, right? You have all these dark factories in China, dark meaning they don't have lights because they don't need them. They don't have workers, they have robots. And that gives such a competitive advantage to certain sectors of the Chinese companies, auto in particular. But at the same time, you need, if you're an American company, if you're a global company, you better be in China because you need to know what your competitors are doing. Because if you don't see how far in advance these Chinese companies have come in the last decade, you're going to not be competitive globally anymore. So it's a real challenge dealing with China, no doubt for all of those reasons.
Mm. Well, I think the big thing with China, and this is an example that I give often, but at the end of the year I'll give it again. I mean, here's what China can do that no one else can do. So you come up with an idea for a new headphones case, and you send across a photo or a drawing, and you say, "Would you please make this for me?" And you'll get a sample of that item in 24 hours. Like an actual sample, right? So then you're able to go, well, I like the corners a little more rounded. And then 24 hours later, the thing comes with new rounded corners. Then you say, great, I want it in pink. We're having a special event. I need it in pink. The Chinese companies can give you 5 samples of 5 different shades of pink 24 hours after that. Then you're able to look at it and say, actually, I like this pink. I want 10,000 pieces of this next week. China delivers 10,000 pieces to you next week in pink on the design that you had. Nobody else can do that. I mean, just to get pink dye into a factory is an ordeal in a lot of markets. They just simply don't have anybody like next door who actually has 5 different shades of pink. So that could have been a 4 to 6 week lag in most markets. The ability to get the thing from the factory onto a plane and over to you in that period of time is a sort of only in China. So it's the sort of ecosystem that China has that makes them so competitive. And it's at every level. So it's education systems and infrastructure and logistics and the complexity of the way in which these firms all work together, from the plastics and the dye producers to the people who make cardboard boxes and printer inks. All of that is working as a sort of engine that is very hard to compete with if you don't have that kind of ecosystem.